Aristotle on motion. Aristotle divided motion into two main classes, natural motion and violent motion. We briefly consider each, not as study material, but as a background to present ideas about motion. Aristotle asserted that natural motion proceeds from the nature of an object, dependent on the combination of the four elements, earth, water, air, and fire the object contains. In his view, every object in the universe has a proper place, determined. By its nature, any object not in its proper place will strive to get there. Being of the earth, an unsupported lump of clay, will fall to the ground being of the air, an unimpeded puff of smoke will rise being a mixture of earth and air, but predominantly earth. A feather will fall to the ground, but not as rapidly as a lump of clay. Aristotle stated that heavier objects would strive harder, and argued that objects should fall at speeds proportional to their weights. The heavier the object, the faster it should fall. Natural motion could be either straight up or straight down, as in the case of all things on earth, or it could be circular, as in the case of celestial objects. Unlike up-and-down motion, circular motion has no beginning or end, repeating itself without deviation. Aristotle believed that different rules apply to the heavens and asserted that celestial bodies are perfect, spheres made of a perfect and unchanging substance, which he called quintessence. One, the only celestial object with any detectable variation on its face was the moon. Medieval Christians, still under the sway of Aristotle's teaching, ignorantly explained that lunar imperfections were due to the closeness of the moon and contamination by human corruption on earth. Violent motion, Aristotle's other class of motion, resulted from pushing or pulling forces. Violent motion was imposed motion. A person pushing a cart or lifting a heavy weight imposed motion, as did someone hurling a stone or winning to go for. The wind imposed motion on ships. Floodwaters imposed motion on boulders and tree trunks. The essential thing about violent motion was that it was externally caused and was imparted to objects. They moved not of themselves, not by their nature, but because of pushes or pulls. The concept of violent motion had its difficulties, because the pushes and pulls responsible for it were not always evident. For example, a bowstring moved an arrow until the arrow left the bow after that. Further explanation of the arrow's motion seemed to require some other pushing agent. Aristotle imagined, therefore, that a parting of the air by the moving arrow resulted in a squeezing effect on the rear of the arrow as the air rushed back to prevent a vacuum from forming. The arrow was propelled through the air as a bar of soap is propelled in the bathtub when you squeeze one end of it. To summarize, Aristotle taught that all motions are due to the nature of the moving object or due to a sustained push or pull. Provided that an object is in its proper place, it will not move unless subjected to a force. Except for celestial objects, the normal state is one of rest. Aristotle's statements about motion were a beginning in scientific thought, and although he did not consider them to be the final words on the subject, his followers for nearly 2,000 years regarded his views as beyond question. Implicit in the thinking of ancient, medieval, and early Renaissance times was the notion that the normal state of objects is one of rest, since it was evident to most thinkers until the 16th century that Earth must be in its proper place, and since a force capable of moving Earth was inconceivable, it seemed quite clear to them that Earth does not move.